Okay, let's call this meeting to order. Uh, Doug is running a little late, so when he gets here, we'll bring him in. Um, the We need approval for the agenda and the minutes. Now I put a copy of the minutes on everybody's desk, so uh, if you want to just review them if you haven't, but if we could get a motion for the approval of the minutes and the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes in the agenda.
All right, and a
A
second, please.
second.
Okay, Doka's got a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All right. Election of vice chairman. We didn't have, at the last meeting, we did not elect a vice chairman. And Scott served as vice chair last year, or the last term for us. And I spoke to him and he'd be willing to serve again. So if we could get a motion, uh,
I'll nominate Scott Yonke as vice chairman.
okay.
I second that nomination.
Doka's seconding it. Any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Being no other nominations, I would ask that we cast a unanimous ballot for Scott Yonke. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. Scott, you're lucky. Did we receive any written comments from the public that is anyone aware of? Okay. Tracy, you're up first.
Okay. One thing I just wanted to Thank you. One thing I just wanted to go over first, can you hear me? All right. Is the recovery portion of emergency management. So the aim of the recovery phase when it comes to emergency management is to restore the affected area to its previous state, and that can differ from the response phase. The recovery efforts are concerned more with issues and decisions that must be made after immediate needs are addressed. Recovery efforts are primarily concerned with actions that involve rebuilding destroyed property, reemployment, and the repair of other essential infrastructure. So I just wanted to bring that up just to, I guess, just bring awareness to everyone a little bit more about what emergency management does. And that is just one of the phases that we handle in our office.
Okay.
So the budget for 2020, currently we are on track. We did see some expenses to COVID-19, and you're going to notice that more in our office supplies budget under the 52600, and that is more along noted again in the office supplies, which is our highest one at 89.89% being spent so far this year. Other than that, everything else is on track. So if there's any questions to our budget.
No, I don't have anybody got questions for the budget? Okay. Next.
Next is NIMS compliancy. I have been a little busy, but I will get information out to the new county board members, what it means to be NIMS compliant and how they can take those courses online.
How are we doing as far as the compliance? Because we had quite a few new members came in.
I have not put the numbers together for the county board, but it's probably just under 0.5%.
Okay.
So. Next is reviewing upcoming training or exercise events. There's currently none on our schedule. Next was update on sirens. So again, due to COVID-19, that's not been a priority. I will be touching base with WPS to try to find out ownership of those 5 sirens that we have been questioning.
Do we really want to own them?
No, I mean, Kewaunee County has never owned any sirens. Those were previously owned by Kewaunee Power Station. It is just unknown as to what became of those 5 sirens when Point Beach purchased Kewaunee Power Station sirens as to which ones were actually owned. The only reason we want to know who has ownership is when something goes wrong with one of the sirens, who do we reach out to see about getting any repairs done?
Okay.
So
Now they're running off of batteries, I take,
That
that's
would
what they
be
tell
my
us.
assumption, because I was told that there was no electrical power to them, because nobody's paying electricity to them.
They work, so I mean, obviously, there's gotta be the battery's gotta be getting charged, huh?
Yes, but batteries are only good for so long. And then, so when those batteries stop working, those sirens may stop working. And then who's going to pay to send someone up there to change batteries, much less pay for the batteries?
Okay,
So, or pay to take them down if no one wants to take ownership and maintain them.
okay.
Next is update of flooding. We got some rain last night, so the city of Kewaunee is still experiencing high water levels. Other than that, I've not heard anything in regards to any flooding issues. And then I wanted to just give an overview of the stuff that we do relating to COVID-19 in our office. So we continue to submit the daily mortuary report to the state on behalf of the county coroner. This allows the state of Wisconsin to monitor deaths as it relates to COVID-19 statewide for the potential need of the DMORT team that could be requested if needed. Our office helps with the PPE survey and distribution that has transgressed or doing that bi-weekly instead of weekly as it had originally started out. Last week, with the request of COVID-19 community testing being held in Door County, that was held for Door and Kewaunee County residents. Our office assisted with logistics for that event, including traffic plan, volunteer recruitment, public information, appropriate signage, testing supplies, communication plan, coordination with National Guard, and coordination with public health. That was a 3-day event. There was approximately 400 persons who went through for testing, and we did see both Kewaunee County and Door County residents go through. And the other thing is just, we've got the discussion only to the changes of Chapter 7 of the State Emergency Declaration for Kewaunee County.
Okay, why don't you do this? Why don't you just brief us on what this is and why it came about?
So it is a procedure for declaration of a state of emergency in Kewaunee County. So this came about, I could not tell you when it was first originated, but it was just to have procedures put in place on if there's a declaration, who has the authority to declare that declaration. Earlier this year, we had it updated because the wrong statutes were referenced in terms of emergency management. And then just recently with COVID-19, public health wanted to make sure that they could enforce some things if this came up again. So public health reached out to have that updated. So any updates are more in regards to public health enforcement.
Okay, and this will be coming up before the county board, correct?
Correct. It's got to
Yes.
be read to county board twice, and I thought it'd be appropriate for you guys to hear about it before it got to county board.
Okay. Yeah, are there any questions for Tracy on that? Scott?
Yeah, in section 710, number 4. Well, actually, 710, pretty much all of it. It says, Kewaunee County Health Officer, upon the appearance of communicable disease in Kewaunee County, will investigate, for one. And then in 4, it says may forbid public gatherings when deemed necessary. I'm not in favor of that, and also not in favor of 721, where there's penalties. I don't know if everybody read these, but I have a problem with someone that's not elected having the power to do that stuff.
Okay. Like Tracy said, this is gonna come up at our board meeting, so that's time that we wanna address it.
Yeah, who wrote this up?
So
Jeff.
those sections that you're referring to were with Jeff Wisnicki and Cindy Kennard, making sure that, again, information for public health were added. The new stuff that you are referring to, basically from, let me find the original. So subchapter 2 and on is the new information that was added for public health.
Okay. Normally, when there's something like this, we get to see what has changed.
So if you would like,
Everything.
That's what I was looking for too. I couldn't.
So 7.21, that whole chapter, that's new
subchapter 2.
penalties.
Subchapter 2
Yeah,
is
and
new.
subchapter 3.
So the section that lays out that the county health officer can take all measures necessary to prevent, suppress, and then also forbid public gatherings, that's new?
That is new to this procedure for declaration in regards to Chapter 7. The original Chapter 7 that was listed in the ordinances was a one-page document that went from 7.1 down to 7.4.
So, I mean, I've never seen a document put forth that didn't have that what was, highlighted what was being changed and what was old. That's very
Yeah,
strange to me.
that was the weird part, is there was nothing.
But this also,
highlighting.
these changes I'm not sure, where was this, so this originated with Cindy and Jeff. There was no other input on this?
I cannot answer on your behalf.
Okay.
Jeff's
And-
not here, so
And
that'd
it
be
was
tough.
sent to me as well, so I should mention that. It was sent to Cindy and myself after Jeff had made the changes.
Because I talked with Public Health, I asked Kim, and she said that she was just told that it was going to be, that it was being brought forward at Public Health, which it was. And so this does represent a rather dramatic change, right?
I would say that's quite a change, yeah.
And this would give an unelected official sole authority to do some pretty dramatic things.
Yeah, personally, I think it should go, in the event that the county board couldn't act on it, it should at least go to the county board chairman and the supervisor and the administrator. I mean, you two guys are the ones that would have to do an emergency measure.
So with
Well,
this
not
stuff
under
that's
this.
mentioned under public health, I guess you'd have to look at their statutes as well as what, and when it comes to communicable disease, what authorities the public health nurse has. I cannot
Right.
speak on that behalf. So originally, and this was brought up in March, I believe, again with the change of statutes for just the procedure for declaration. So this should not be the first time that some of you guys have seen this portion in which the order of authority was talking about for declaration chair, and then it would be oversight chair, then it could be the sheriff, and then if none of those were able to be reached, a declaration could be done jointly between the county administrator and emergency management. And this was originally designed, my understanding would be, for a nuclear type incident.
Well, I appreciate that it's designed for a nuclear type measure, but, again, going back to Chapter 7, I don't think that in a nuclear type situation that we would need to ban public gatherings and so forth.
Right, and they just built off of the definition.
Yeah, why don't you see if she's available? We're gonna see if Cindy is available.
She can speak on her statutes.
Hmm?
Then she can enlighten everybody on her statutes.
Yeah. Okay, while we're waiting for that, I'll tell you what, let's move forward and let's bring Dave in under Sheriff's Department, please.
All right, we'll start with the budget as indicated by the agenda. And a couple things I just want to point out. I think everyone has their budget in front of them. If you look at school liaison officer grant, it's actually a school liaison contract with Luxembourg. And you can see each year we contract with them for $108,000 plus. And I did get a call from the superintendent. He did indicate that he'd like to talk to me about the last few months of not having that resource in the school. I think we gotta walk gingerly here because this is the largest source of revenue for the sheriff's department. I think we should work with them on this, and see what we can do. Let me negotiate with the school superintendent, and see what he comes up with. I got some ideas that I might recommend. We have a part-time school liaison officer. Out of the 9 months, I might offer 4 days out of the early season next year to offset the cost of those 3 months, or negotiate something, streamlining that loss a little bit,
Sure.
so we don't get hit with a $30,000 loss. So again, that will be reported out at the next meeting. The bill is due right now to the schools, but with this being negotiated, I think we'll be patient with it and walk gingerly. I don't want to lose this contract. We've had it for 18 years, and this, again, is the largest source of income or revenue for the sheriff's department. Any questions? I'm sorry. I'm going to sing here pretty soon. Okay, so with that said, moving on, I'll go to sheriff's overtime. Right now in the jail, if you look at, I'm sorry, on the sheriff's overtime, we're at 36.4%, which is right in line. The only overtime that we have is, again, if we have a major incident, and right now our overtime is running very minimal. I think the last pay period we had 10 hours of overtime, and then the holiday pay, which is driven by a union contract, would increase that, but that's out of our hands. The next one I want to point out is uniform allowance. Again, right now we're at 51%. Don't be alarmed to that. What happens early part of the year, a lot of the officers put in because of wear and tear on the uniform, and we have also added some officers along the way. I do shut this down as soon as we hit a zero balance, and the officers understand that we will not be issuing out any more uniform monies at that time. So again, that one is a little bit high, but again, it's controlled by the need for uniforms. Next one I'd like to just point out is gasoline. We budgeted $52,000 for gas, and right now we're running at right around 8, I believe. And we don't foresee that going up anytime soon. So again, that's a plus for COVID, if you want to call it that. Moving on to the jail side, wages. Right now, we've been down 2 positions in the jail, which is reflecting in the wage for jail division. We recently hired a new officer. He started Sunday, June 7th. So that's the first officer to replace the 2 that we have open. Our top candidate at that during the process said yes to it, then he backed out of the hiring process, so we're back to square one, but we're close to hiring another individual here shortly. On to the next page, if we look at boarding of prisoners, we budget $75,000 a year. Right now, we have spent $3,600. That speaks for itself. Our jail population right now is 6 or 7 people. We are not farming anybody out to other jurisdictions. So again, at the end of the year, this is going to be another large increase of savings. You want to call it a savings due to COVID. Food services goes hand in hand with the amount of inmates that we have. Again, we're doing well there. But I just wanted to point out those couple items on the budget. Besides that, the budget's running perfect right now. We're right on point.
Okay. Do you see, Dave, after this is the courts open back up, you think our jail population is going to come right back up again?
Yes, I do believe it will go up to the, we can hold 21 inmates, 21 to 24 comfortably. Yes, I believe we'll be up in the 25, 26 area. But again, courts aren't opening up anytime soon, and they're very cautious how they're, proceeding here. So again, I'm not sure what this looks like. It's a good question, but it's a hard question to answer.
What are you doing with people that are out there that, and it's got to be creative for you guys.
And a lot of monitors. We put them on bracelets and so forth. But again, with no courts, no one's getting sentenced, so we're not having any new people report. So are we going to see a large kick in November, December? Very possible. So there's crime still being committed. So we'll see how that goes.
Okay. All right.
All right, moving on to overtime category. I issued you the overtime. The two sheets again reflect 2020 and 2019. And I just want to point out a couple things again with the new schedule and also the 7-on, 7-off schedule that we've been working on. The open shifts, we average 9 a month right now. Last year at this time, we were at 39. I'm sorry, we're averaging 9 a month this year and 39 last month, the last year. So again, the overtime is not there because of the schedule. We're working 7 on, 7 off, and we have enough shift to cover our usage of EM1s and other items. So again, that's down. If we look at meetings right now, we're averaging 3 hours for meetings versus in the past is always 10 to 12. The drug unit, it's way down. We're just not doing a lot of drug action right now. We're not seeing a big uptick on it, but again, that could open up any day. And then the final one, the scheduling of overtime, we're averaging 8.9 this year. Last year at this time, we were 22.7. Again, that has everything to do with the COVID schedule and balancing that with that. And that's keeping our overtime and our wages down.
How does the officers like that 7 and 7?
You know, it's right down the middle, 50%. The older officers don't care for it. The younger officers are like, we love it. We have 7 days on, 7 days off. It's like a half a year. Well, it's a half a year off. But to get that negotiated into the contract, it's going to be a tough sell because you're just not going to get the votes. On the jail side, you can do it. But again, we want to keep them hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
In our other schedule, we're very pleased with this, kept down the overtime dramatically. The officers like that schedule. And again, a happy employee is a productive employee, and we want to do what we can. So this 7 on, 7 off does burn them out. I mean, it burns out an officer. You're working out of your 7 days, 12 of them are 12-hour shifts.
Mm-hmm.
The other 2 are 8. So at the end of that 7 days, they're pretty, down, pretty burned out. But that's where we're at with overtime.
Okay.
Updating the jail facility and the census for the jail. I did hand out the jail census right now. You can look at it all you want. All we're averaging is 6 inmates per month. It's only because of the COVID schedule. We haven't been higher than 7 or 8. I think we had 9 one time and we had kicked out quickly. But again, it's 6 right now. And the phases of the jail, I think, John, you know as much as I do. I know they're going to bring this to the county board this month. They go over the phases.
It's down for report on the county board. John,
Kane.
he's down under reports.
So again, that'll be very interesting to see where it moves forward. Let's see, staffing updates. Right now, like I indicated, we did hire a new individual, Mark Risto. He started with us June 7th as a jailer dispatcher. Our one candidate backed out of the process. We're very disappointed with that. We were very high on that individual. He just said that he didn't want to challenge that dispatch. He wants to go into law enforcement to be in a squad. So he said no, thank you to us, and he's moving forward. But we're looking at another individual to put that individual on by July, early July. And I think that'll go real well. The background's excellent on that individual, and we should be moving forward. With the staffing, we've been doing temperature checks every morning at the Sheriff's Department. No ups, everything's normal. Everyone's doing real well. We just lost one of our deputies to the military for 400 days. She was called up to go overseas. And again, that hurts, so we're still 2 down. We hire one, we lose one. The sheriff is still out of the office on military leave, but he's looking at coming back in the end of June. We have 2 individuals out on FMLA, and we're hoping to get them back here shortly. So that's about where we're at with staffing. Any questions for the staff?
Is your candidate, have you been continually building that candidate list?
Well, it's something that we've talked about in the past, and again, I'll be announcing my retirement here in July. My official letter will go in, I'm looking at early January next year. And we, my recommendation, along with the command staff and the sheriff, is to put out another eligibility or a test, to get an eligibility list. And if we do find an individual, we really need a male right now. And if we can hire a male off this and get them rolling in November, or I'm sorry, in August, to replace my position, again, we have the young lady that's overseas, her wage is still in the budget. And to use that money to offset a hire, so we don't have to be behind the eight ball in hiring all the time, I think that'd be the ideal situation. So that's something I'm gonna talk to Scott this afternoon about, and just prepare him and see what he thinks about it also. But instead of always chasing our tail, I like to once have, ahead of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be next month, I'll report
Okay.
on. COVID, you know, we'll be leaving our 7 on, 7 off schedule June 21st. It saved us a lot of money on overtime. Again, it's hard on the officers, but June 21st, we'll be back online with our old schedule. We're pleased with that one. They'll be on the jail and the patrol divisions. Our sheriff's staff, administrative staff, they're back to normal. They're working the same hours, but we do have one out right now, and we'll be coming back shortly on FMLA. Our investigative staff is back to normal, and our cooks are back to normal starting June 21st. We're going to kick our training back up. We have EVOC, it's emergency vehicle operations, and it's state mandated that we have to have it every 2 years, and this is the year that we have to have it. So we're going to kick that training off in August, September, and then just kind of slowly, gradually open up our training sessions so we get back to normal. I just think it's a good idea. We'll watch what we're doing. We're not, overcrowding ourselves. We'll have social distancing. We're going to start our vehicle inspections also. That's a revenue source. That's very good for the sheriff's department, and that'll start also June 21st. That's where an individual will bring a crash vehicle that's rebuilt to be inspected by our deputy, and then through this state of Wisconsin, we get $60 per inspection. And that's a really good revenue source. We do it in the state patrol. We're one of the only few agencies that do that. So it comes in pretty handy. All right, I think that's all I have. If anybody has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Of all what's going on now, is there going to be any changes in the training as far as
Mandated,
tactics or?
Our tactics are pretty policy driven. We don't have knee, stands on people's necks. We do have in place if an officer is overly aggressive that the next officer steps in, so that's enough. That situation that happened in Minneapolis, I don't believe I can't say we'd ever see something like that, but, I believe in our officers. I believe they do the job that we're looking for. Our tactics are not going to change right now unless if it gets mandated by the federal government or the state and how we train. But right now, we have never, in 18 years I've been chief deputy, have ever had a complaint of a use of force issue. We've had 2 officer-involved shootings, and during those, we were cleared on both that our tactics were excellent, and we did what we had to take out the situation and resolve it. So right now, I would say no.
You're probably, your current officers aren't your problem. You need to really do a vetting, I'm sure, on any new hires just to make sure we don't have.
And that's one question that gets brought up, and they say we have to do a better job of background. We have to recruit better candidates. Open up a position, and you have 5 candidates that apply, and you go through the process, and you find out that one moves on to your testing. It's not an easy task right now to come up with 30 officers, and
Mhm.
the challenges that you're putting on law enforcement to say you've got to find better officers. I'm pretty darn proud of what we have right now.
Mm-hmm.
Our officers are, in the years I've been in law enforcement, I've never seen a better crew. They're young, they're energetic. Even the older officers that are coming into the twilight of their career, they still have the drive and want to support this community. So right now, all that you're seeing don't put us in one lump sum. I know you guys aren't doing that, nationwide and saying we're bad officers. We have some darn good officers. And,
Mhm.
you take offense to some of the stuff that's being said. And, one bad officer, and you think about every night in the United States, there's over 1 million calls for service. And every 6 months, one of these deals raise their ugly head. And then they blow it up and they make us all look bad. And then they protest that we're not good, we're bad officers. That's not really fair. You see a doctor, like, a malpractice suit. That's not blowing up all over the news. And that happens every day.
Yep.
Again, we have bad officers, we have great officers, and there's officers in between, just like any other profession. Somehow this really got blown out of proportion, and it's bad. The situation was very terrible. I seen the video, and I'm ashamed of that officer, those officers. But in Kewaunee County, speaking for the cities and the county, we got pretty darn good officers.
Okay. Any other questions for Dave? Okay. The next one, our next meeting date was scheduled for July 10th. And as I said before, as of right now, all meetings will be held here. The meeting for August would be the 12th, again here in Kewaunee, 8:15. The next meeting is a sheriff's meeting, so Dave, you'll have to bring somebody for minutes. And then Tracy
we
and
have that worked out with
August here.
Tracy.
Yeah, we do.
Okay?
I'm hoping that Mary will be back by then. It's just that Angie's overwhelmed with what she has coming in for reports.
Okay. Just let us know if you don't have somebody. We'll try and get somebody from here.
Absolutely.
Okay. Travel request, any?
All of our training's being done virtual.
Okay. The only comment I have is Dave, Cindy, your departments, fantastic job. Proud to say you guys are really great. I mean, I think I speak for all the county board members when I say that this has been an ugly situation and you've handled it like a true professional. Thank you. Any other business,
We going back to
Scott?
discussion on chapter 7?
I haven't heard anything. Oh, she's out of the office.
Right, Jeff?
I saw Scott here now.
Scott was here.
Yeah, Scott left. I don't know where he went.
Does anyone want me to make a copy of the original?
Yeah, so we could see what's added in.
He's not there either. Jeff's not there either. Try him and see. Yes.
We moved it from the July to 8th to the 10th to Friday. What was that? I had it all in my calendar on the 8th, on Wednesday.
What is it? 10th is a Wednesday, isn't it?
It's a Friday. I think it's a Friday, isn't it?
Yep.
So I had it on my calendar on the 8th.
Just hang on a second. Let's check.
Yeah, mine too.
Let me see if I've made a mistake. July 8th. I'm sorry. You're correct.
Today's June 10th.
Yeah.
Scratch that. It should be July 8th. Shame on me. Okay. So it is July 8th and then in August 12th. Again, 8:15 here. We'll just wait and see if Scott can enlighten us. Dan, you got anything? You're sitting there very quietly.
Doing a great job. You don't even need me.
I think we'll take you. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Yeah. What is the question again? Or who asked it?
Chapter 7.
So, go ahead. Sorry, Supervisor Yankee.
Subchapter 2 was added and 3, correct?
I'd have to see what you're talking about.
Thank you.
That was the original.
I don't believe it was Supervisor Yankee. Or if it was a while ago. I guess the bigger question is the question more about local health officers' duties and what it has authority to do and not to do?
That and enforcement violations and penalties.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me a lot of the burning ordinance.
And I look at it as two different things, not the burning ordinance. There's the restrictions, and then there's also always enforcement. So from a legal standpoint, whether it's the county board, the local public health officer, the county conservationist, or the like, we provide what are considered to be ordinances, and usually that is then done by a body that either gives, so the county board either gives the county conservationist the authority, or there is statutory authority given to a county official regarding certain items. And then the enforcement, that is usually a lot of times if it's an ordinance, it kind of goes through the sheriff's department. But if there are some where they authorize the county staff to enforce, like in county conservationist, with groundwater and with the applying of liquid manure, then the county conservationist is given that authority. As for the local health officer duties and authority, those duties and authority are statutory, which come straight from statutes 252.03. Now, because of the COVID pandemic that has happened, and with the Supreme Court ruling, there is some, what's the right word? There's some gray area as to now what is truly considered to be the local health officer's authority. It has not been challenged. I'll give the perfect example is when the Supreme Court rendered their decision regarding the Safer at Home ordinance. You did have some local municipalities and local governments where their local health officers immediately issued their own emergency order under their statutory authority. And then roughly about 24 to 48 hours later, a number of those same local governments rescinded that emergency order because they were unsure whether they had legal standing because of the Supreme Court decision, whether they had legal standing to enforce those orders of closing businesses. Some still did keep them in, and so that issue has not been resolved in that respect. So with regards to being able to open or close businesses, bad pun, I'm sorry, the jury is still out. I think you'd have a number of folks that would be saying that the statutes are clear, that the local public health officer has the authority to do so, and then it would be asked that the law enforcement arm of the government be the ones to enforce that, of which again, enforcement is a subjective type of thing. We know that in certain municipalities that you've had the police have a conversation with business owners to try to convince them to not open their businesses, and then we've had others that have had to therefore basically ticket that business. So there is not a absolutely clear black and white as to where the authority is since the Supreme Court decision. That was a very long-winded answer, which I hope answered your question.
So if there is a statute on the books right now, why do we have to do it?
I'm sorry, what did you say, Supervisor Yonke?
If there's a statute in Wisconsin already, you know, why do we have to do it? You know, I'm just not in favor of anybody forbidding certain things. We found out what happened to people that cut hair and groom dogs, you know. As far as ticketing people in our county, I'm not for it. So.
This entire section, everything after 7.04, that's all new, correct? That's what I'm seeing now? So this entire section there, that is all new, correct? I'm reading that correctly then, yes? So
I would
if there
have
were
to
a
say yes.
question so if there were any question in the future, I guess there wouldn't be because the board would have ceded any authority on that matter, correct?
I can't see expanding the powers. The original Chapter 7 authority I agree with, but not the expansion of the powers.
And as for to the, this is new to the personnel policy, correct? So this is completely up to the board whether they choose to include this into the personnel policy or not. So that is completely within your purview if you want it added or not. I will, again, there's probably some gray area as to whether it's in the personnel policy or not, whether the local public health officer, local health officer has the authority. I can tell you that we try as much as possible to adhere to the wishes of the board since they are the prime policy-making body within the county. So if the committee so chooses that they don't want that section added, it doesn't have to be added. That's completely your call.
So does that come out of this committee or does it come out of the health committee, a recommendation?
Actually, if it's the personnel policies, what you can do is you can make a recommendation to the executive committee, and the executive committee deals with the personnel policies.
Where did this whole section originate and what was the process?
That I am unaware of, only because I'm going to guess that Mr. Wisnicki would be the best person to answer in that respect, because the changes that I had put towards the personnel policies had to do specifically towards personnel matters. Usually when we're talking about state of emergency and the like, I leave that to those department heads regarding those sections. But what we could do if the committee so chooses, an action doesn't need to be taken today. What we could do is you could put it on the agenda again and we could make sure that Ms. Kinnard, Mr. Wisnicki, and anyone else is in attendance to therefore answer any questions. So, as always, just because it's in front of you today does not require you to make a decision.
But the board could take action today and simply be done with it.
Yes, they could do that as well.
I think that something should be done today because the way it sounds, everybody is not for this, is what I'm kind of hearing, which I am on the same page of not for a few things that are in there.
We put this on as a discussion item today. was not put on as an action item. And because of that, I don't see that we can take any action, because it was only, it's put right in the agenda that it's a discussion item only. But we have the ability, on Tuesday, that we can do something about it then. And we could easily send it back to the executive committee and let them decide what to do with it. Dan, I wasn't at executive committee. Was this discussed then?
No,
It wasn't.
no, the first that I saw this was at Public Health.
Okay, so it would be, I mean, this is just my suggestion, is that we, as a committee members, that we bring it back at the board meeting on Tuesday, and we decide what we're gonna do with it.
I
Send it
don't-
back to committee and let executive committee deal with it.
Yeah, I don't think it should come before the board at this point. I don't, I believe it should go to executive and have them simply make a decision to.
Well, you could change the agenda, you can change the agenda, you still have enough time.
Right, but I don't have a desire to bring it before the full board on Tuesday. I don't see why we would do that. I don't see support for it by the committee, so I don't see a purpose in bringing it before the full board.
Yeah, the chair can, as the chair has the authority to set the agenda for the county board, and therefore the chair can decide whether an item is on the board
I mean, unless
agenda
I'm-
or not.
Unless I'm missing something, I
Nope.
don't see the purpose of bringing it before the full board if it's not going to get out of committee.
Okay.
I agree with Dan, but I feel that if Cindy or Jeff had a reason for this, we could at least hear them out,
Well,
what their reasoning is.
they would
That's what I'd
certainly
like
be
to
able
hear
to,
too.
they would certainly be able to include that under their report.
And that could be done not necessarily at the county board, but at the executive committee. And again, this is the purview of the board chair. If the board chair doesn't want it on the agenda, and again, from a usual process standpoint, most, if not all, personnel policy issues, while they may go through other committees, then do funnel through the executive committee because they are considered, in essence, the personnel committee before it goes to the board. If then at the personnel committee, the chair of the personnel committee, which is the chair of the board, would like to have an item placed on there and have the subsequent department heads come and discuss the reason, then that is well within your purview.
The practice has been that, resolutions go through a committee before they're brought to the board, unless there's some extenuating circumstances. I mean, if you're telling me that you think this is something that you really think needs to go before the full board without having made it through committee, I mean, but I don't see that. I think it should remain in committee, and if it can't get out of committee, then I wouldn't see a reason to bring it before full board. Is everybody in agreement with that? I'm seeing a lot of heads nodding.
But
yes.
which committee?
Well, I
This
think
or the executive?
ultimately it would be, it's executive ultimately, but it would not have to be because obviously public safety, I think is involved clearly.
If I may, Mr. Chair, and there's nothing that prevents more than one committee bringing up this item. If the Public Safety and Justice Committee again would like to have Ms. Kinnard and Mr. Wisnicki and myself at the next committee meeting to discuss this item, that's absolutely fine.
I would be more than happy to, let you guys take this up again next month and address it. I also know that it is tabled by Public Health. They tabled it for a month, so I think probably leave it for both of these committees for a month. But certainly, if you desire, we could take it before executive as well. But you already have two other committees that are looking at it.
Okay. Scott, you have a comment?
I think since it deals with enforcement, that it does belong in this committee, and I'd like to see it on the agenda next month.
Okay.
So,
Inviting Jeff and Cindy.
Right.
So Supervisor Yonke, do you feel it should be solely with this committee, or I mean, public health, tabled it, but if they feel that it belongs here and they're amenable to that, that's where it could stay.
Okay.
Ultimately, yes.
I think Supervisor Kroll, the chair of Public Health, would be, I would have to check with her, but I believe that she would be amenable to leaving it to Public Safety to rattle this around,
Okay.
although that would be obviously her purview. I would have to verify that with her.
Okay. I'll move it forward. And you'll see it on next month's agenda.
Okay.
All right. Any other business? If there's no other business, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
By Joe, second by who seconded? Oh, Doug? All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All right.